streaks on the china never mattered before. Who cared when you drop kicked your jacket?
Hey everyone, do you feel that breeze coming in? Well, you better break all the windows. Welcome back to Belvedere Bros, where this week we're asking the important question. Jim, can you spell your analysis?
I believe that I can. I think it's URINALYSIS.
Good job, Jim. That is how you spell it. You're better than George, who somehow doesn't know how to spell that. It's just analysis with urine at the start, basically. But I'll give you a little background on this episode before we dive into it. This one aired on October 4th of 1985, which is one day before Matt Johnson was born. Do you know who Matt Johnson is? I know that's kind of a generic name, but do you know who the Canadian screenwriter, director, and actor Matt Johnson is?
No, I don't, because I was thinking for a second you were talking about Dan Johnson. Remember when they used to have that thing that was like Dan versus Dave or whatever? That was like
from the Olympics, maybe the 92 Olympics, Dan versus Dave, or 88, one of those.
Who is the world's greatest athlete, Dan or Dave? Dan's mom.
Dan.
Dave's mom.
Dave.
Dan's coach.
Dan.
Dave's coach.
Dave.
Dan's dentist.
Dan.
Dave's mailman.
Dave.
Dan's paperboy.
Dan.
Dave's pastor.
Dave.
Dan's girlfriend.
Dan.
Dave's wife.
Dave.
Dan's ex-girlfriend.
Definitely Dave.
To be settled in Barcelona.
clearly not the same thing. So
No. Matt Johnson is from Nirvana, the band, the show. Have you ever seen Nirvana, the band, the show?
No.
Dude. I haven't seen the movie yet. They just recently released Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie. And it's these two guys, Matt Johnson being one of them. It's so funny, man. You never saw the Wii shop where they made he made the song that went along to the music from the Nintendo Wii shop? You never saw that?
No, I haven't.
Super Mario RPG, Sonic the Hedgehog, Donkey Kong 3, Adventures of Lolo 1 and 2, King's Knight, Dig Dug, Juman Fu, Harvest Moon.
You write this song?
Link Puzzle Pokemon, Toe Jam and Earl and Panic on Funkotron. Castlevania, Fatal Fury, Ninja Chuchu, Mario.
Well, you have no idea who Matt Johnson is, but when you discover Nirvana, the band, the show, you are going to love it. They're two guys who are like, they write jingles for ads. It's kind of like Detroiters before Detroiters in a way, like somewhat similar.
Like they do it as a joke, or they do it as a real job?
They did it as a YouTube series, and then I think they turned it into an actual show in Canada at some point, but it was definitely like a YouTube sketch series. Now they, just in the past like 6 months or so, they released a movie, and it was like in theaters and everything. And I think I haven't seen it yet. I want to see it. But Matt Johnson, this episode came out one day before he was born. And also this episode came out 4 days before Bruno Mars was born in Honolulu.
Oh, whoa. Such historical milestones.
Yeah. Also 3 days after the death of writer E.B. White.
Okay.
Trivia quiz for you.
Yeah, Charlotte's Web.
Charlotte's Web. Yep. What else?
Did he write that pig? No, the pig is in Charlotte's Web. I don't know. What's the other thing he wrote?
Stuart Little.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
Yep. E.B. White.
That makes a lot of sense. He likes to have talking animals in his books.
Yes, that's true. So this episode that we're talking about today, Tornado, it's kind of appropriate. I know, Jim, you're on the other side of the state, and actually you spend a lot of your summertime. I don't know, what percentage of your summer do you spend in North Carolina?
Well, I'm currently in North Carolina right now, so I would say probably 80% of my summer is here.
Wow.
We're looking at the summer months. But I'm getting ready to go back to Philadelphia actually on Monday, so I'll be there for a couple of weeks, and then I'll be back here to round it out before Labor Day, and then I'll be back up north for us to hit the road for some shows in Ohio and Chicago, etc.
That's right. We have some Punchline stuff coming up. But what I'm getting at is out here in southwestern Pennsylvania, we have had a lot of tornadoes recently. In fact, there's been twice in the past month and a half or so where my phone and everyone around me's phones made a noise and gave an alert that I'd never seen before. It was a critical tornado warning. And it's an intense sound. And at the same time, the one time I was at Marquitte's house, the phone, we were about to leave to go to a wedding. And that phone alarm went off. And on top of that, Marquitte lives by a fire station.
Okay.
And it put off their tornado warning. And I stepped outside and it was really weird outside. It was that real stillness, that weirdness.
Yeah.
And we were like, whoa.
What did you do?
The alarm was like, get in the basement. So we all went into the basement. And basically it just rained really hard and kind of like a windy rain, like sideways sort of rain, but not an actual tornado where we were, but not far. Fayette City, Pennsylvania, a tornado touched down. And there's been a lot of tornadoes around my area recently, which is surprising. I don't remember a lot of tornadoes just because there's so many hills around and stuff. That's more of like a flat area problem.
Well, dude, you remember we were at Four Chord that year and it was getting crazy. We had to leave and there was tornado activity, but just not near the field.
Yeah, it was a crazy storm. But I guess back in 1985, there was also a lot of tornadoes. So this is not just a current thing. I just don't remember a lot of like tornado warnings growing up. But I guess this is a thing.
I know. I guess I was thinking when I was watching it and they were kind of talking about it, I was like, has this always been a thing in that area? They were just picking out something else that they could talk about in the zone that is happening. But maybe it just seems like it happens a lot because we've been living through it recently.
I mean, there was one commenter on the YouTube upload of this episode saying that there was a lot of tornadoes in the area around that time, but I don't necessarily remember that. What I do remember is what happened in this episode, which starts out with George is writing. He's trying to get something in at the last minute, and he's trying to explain to Mr. Belvedere who Joe Namath is.
Got an interview with Joe Namath.
Who? Who's he?
He's Joe Namath. They're putting him in the Hall of Fame.
Really?
He's a football player. Quarterback, New York Jets. Come on, Broadway Joe. Shaved his mustache, wore pantyhose.
1985, I would assume that Joe Namath was kind of a household name because he was doing a lot of commercials and stuff at the time.
No, for sure. And also, okay, so here's a couple of things, not to just tangent right away, but with Joe Namath, okay, so Belvedere takes place, Mr. Belvedere, the show, takes place in Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania, right?
Right.
Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania is the home of Joe Namath, where Joe Namath was born and went to high school.
Whoa.
Yes. That's why I was like, how could they possibly have not mentioned that in the mix of this? Now, I did look back, and 1985 was the year that Joe Namath was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So that tracks, and him going to speak to him would make sense because he's from Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania. But for some reason, that just didn't come up. It wasn't important.
That is wild that you wouldn't drop the fact that of all places in the country, probably 1 million small towns and cities you could name in the United States, the person you're talking about happens to be from the same small town where the show, this fictional family lives. How do you not mention that tie-in?
Was it such common knowledge in 1985 that that's where he was from that they didn't even need to mention it? They're like, people already know. Why are we telling them what they already know?
I don't think so. But George, when trying to explain to Belvedere who Joe Namath is, says, Broadway Joe, shaved his mustache, wore pantyhose. And I was like, wore pantyhose? Did you know what that reference was?
I can't say this with 100% accuracy because I don't know. But I think there's just something like because he lived in Manhattan and he was, or there was maybe he was on some program and he did some kind of like cross-dressing joke or something. I feel like there's something to it because like he was a party boy in New York City and, you know, whatever. I don't know.
It is not because Joe Namath was a cross-dressing party boy, Jim. It was because Joe Namath actually did a pantyhose commercial where he slipped his legs into pantyhose.
This commercial will prove to the women of America that Beauty Miss Pantyhose can make any legs look like $1 million.
Now, I don't wear pantyhose, but if Beauty Mist can make my legs look good, imagine what they'll do for yours.
Somehow, everything looks better through Beauty Mist.
Especially your legs.
And I guess it was funny because his legs are famously ravaged by football injuries and surgeries. So he put those into pantyhose. I mean, or it could be the whole cross-dressing party boy thing.
I never could have come up with that answer. And it's the truth.
Yeah.
So what do you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So Wesley's up early because he can't sleep because it's too quiet, which I'm like, yeah, that is kind of a thing. I've gotten in the bad habit for years now of falling asleep to TV. I never did that my whole life. And then it's just being around people who did it, whether it was us on tour or whether it was Marquette doing it or whoever. Now, when I'm alone, I got to have the TV on to fall asleep. I hate that I've trained myself to be like that.
Whoa, I've done the opposite. I used to always have a TV in my room. And then one year, many years ago, we were like, nope, this TV is getting out of here. And we've never had a TV in the bedroom since.
That's probably pretty smart. I bet you get better rest. I probably used to get better rest than I do now. But Wesley said it's weird outside because of how quiet it is. And that is exactly my experience with an incoming possible tornado is, yeah, it gets very still outside. There was no noise, no birds chirping,
right? And
no wind.
And they alluded to that. It was kind of like if you know kind of thing of why he would talk about like, it's weird, there's no birds chirping or anything like that. And you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah, it's very strange. But George finished up his article at the last minute and he asked Belvedere to put it in order because I guess he just kind of, he didn't even have time to put the pages in order. He asked Belvedere to put it in order before he leaves. Now, as we know, Belvedere really put it in order as he started revising George's article, to which I asked Jim, how would you feel about someone doing a little unsolicited editing and revising to an article you wrote?
I mean, yeah, I guess he really shouldn't have done it. I mean, he did it and he was only trying to help, but clearly it didn't matter, I suppose, because the editor thought it was great. Now, I guess if there was some sort of extra aftermath of people like, wondering where he went or what, like, I don't know. It's certainly the wrong move. He shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, I think Belvedere might have overstepped a little bit, but at the same time, like, why shouldn't George be able to spell urinalysis and be be a better writer than Belvedere? Belvedere's not a professional writer. He's a professional houseman, cleaner, butler. I guess they've referred to him as a butler. I don't know what his proper title is,
for sure.
But he's not an editor or a writer, although he does write in his journal.
What do you think that George wanted to write in the newspaper they wouldn't let him put?
I don't know. Also, like, it can be assumed that George does have an editor to clean up like at least spelling and grammar and sentence structure and stuff. So I don't know what Belvedere put into this article that really caught George's eye as being out of the ordinary from what his editor would normally do.
I think he would have wanted to say pee test and they wouldn't let him write the word pee.
Yeah, piss test. I can see George really seems like a guy who would say piss or taking a leak.
He would. Also, since we're kind of going in, chronological order here with the episode, I have to mention that, looking this up with amongst the Joe Namath-ness of it all, he says he has to be in Ohio in an hour. Well, Canton is 63 miles or 90 minutes away from Beaver Falls. So there's no way he's getting there on time unless he's just hauling ass or whatever's going to be the case. Because maybe he was being real because he was going to be in Ohio, which is not too far, but not Canton. That's for sure.
Right. Well, I could see George driving fast. We also see at this point several shout outs in this episode to Allegheny County during the weather report that Wesley's watching. Yeah,
I wrote that down too. I was like, all right, Allegheny County, they definitely got it right.
Yeah. We learned that Heather, who's 15 years old, is trying to date an 18-year-old with a van. And so she's not allowed to, but she says he's like an immature 18. To which Marcia says, I don't care if he's Victor mature. And I'm like, what? Victor mature? Did you get this reference?
Not at all. I mean, they said something about that next. I thought maybe they were trying to like give us the context clues of what that was, but what is it?
Maybe in 1985, you know who Victor Mature is. If, say, you're in your 60s or 70s in 1985, you would get this reference because Victor Mature was an actor who was in a lot of musicals in the 1940s with people like Rita Hayworth and Betty Grable. So I guess it would be like someone making a reference now to something in like the 70s or 80s where a young kid might be like, what the hell are you talking about? But we might know what it is. Right. I don't know. Victor Mature.
Which speaking of in this zone, there's a reference to Woodstock into which that she has no idea what Woodstock is, which I think is pretty crazy because, all right, so if Heather is 15 years old in 1985, she was born in 1970, which is 1 year after Woodstock. Okay, so yeah, you're not aware of Woodstock or whatever, but she would have been 9 when they were celebrating the 10th anniversary, and she was 14 when they were celebrating the 15th anniversary. So like, not that they had an event, because we know that they didn't have an event until 1994, but something they would have talked about it, or something would have been on the radio, like, we're going back to Woodstock weekend.
Theoretically, Heather could have been conceived at Woodstock.
Whoa, that's true.
George was a baseball player, so, you know, he might be more on the jock side than a hippie side. But who knows? I mean, Marcia might have been a little bit of a flower child.
That's true. Man, talk about going down the rabbit hole.
Yeah. I mean, she definitely got knocked up kind of young, so who knows? Well, Wesley is trying to warn his family that tornado's coming. They're not believing him for some reason. I don't know why he would make that up. But then we find out that a tornado actually touched down in Newcastle on the show. So we are getting more references to the area. Once again, I feel like maybe they're just have a map open and pointing to something.
Yep. That's right. That's what I was just saying. They have little more than just a map and the name of the professional sports teams in the town.
Yeah. Belvedere is making lunch for the kids. Tuna sandwiches and carrot sticks for lunch.
Kids don't love that.
No, I feel like he could have done a little better than that.
Also in this moment was the terrible Wesley Wizard of Oz joke, which was so ridiculous. And like at first I was like, what is he even talking about? Until I realized what he was talking about. He was like attempting to act like a munchkin and then act like the Wicked Witch. And that was his way of saying there was a tornado coming. I don't know.
Wes, what are you doing? My pretty, I'll get you on your hair done, too. Get a personality.
Yeah, our references are getting all over the place. So I guess at this point, Wizard of Oz, even in this time of the monoculture and whatever, they're showing Wizard of Oz on regular TV probably once a year. I think that was a thing, maybe around the holidays or something.
I seem to remember that as something that happened. So yeah, I would have to agree with you.
I'm just trying to square why you would know Wizard of Oz and Victor Mature, but not know Woodstock.
Maybe she didn't get the Victor Mature reference either, and that was just for the audience and not for Heather.
Right. This is also around the time where George does call in. He's pissed off about his article, thinking that his big shot editor had rewrote the whole thing. But then he finds out that that is not the case. In fact, his editor said he's never seen such beautiful grammar.
Do you think that means that he's going to assume that it's going to be good in the future? Because it's just going to go back to George.
I mean, I guess it's easy to believe that Belvedere has beautiful grammar just by the way he speaks.
He is eloquent.
But why Butler? Why this life of service, this career, when apparently you're so good at so many things, not to take anything away from housekeeping, butlering, anything like that. It once again goes back to, I think Belvedere's just looking for a family. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it could be the case. I mean, I guess they sort of alluded in the last episode to like how he did various like lumberjack tasks or whatever else. But I don't know. I didn't really quite gather that he did anything other than just be a manservant to somebody throughout his entire life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I guess it's like, because he was with Churchill, but he was butlering at church with Churchill. And then he allegedly was in Buckingham Palace, I'm guessing, because they called the Queen. So, but what was he doing there?
Yeah.
Clearly just keeping things in order, not like, it wasn't like in the war room or something, I don't know.
Yeah, he's a real Renaissance man. I just don't know that he's using his Renaissance man talents for what they could best be used. Although you could argue, like, what better use is there than maintaining a house and helping to shape future generations into better people than they may have been? Maybe that would be Belvedere's argument why he enjoys a life of service to others.
When you drop kicked your jacket as you came through the door, no one...
Mr. Belvedere will be right back.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Skims or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling and for shoppers buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. It's home of Shop Pay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Allbirds uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/income.
Here at One Hit Thunder, we love and respect all those hardworking musicians and songwriters putting great music into the world, which is why we're proud to call DistroKid a sponsor. Long before they even became a sponsor of our show, I was using DistroKid to make sure that my music was streaming on all the go-to places like Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube Music, Tidal, and Amazon Music. And if you're ready to put your music into the world, I can't recommend DistroKid enough. And if you head to distrokid.com/VIP/OneHitThunder, you can get 30% off your entire first year with DistroKid. Heading to that address, which is also in the show notes of this episode, is the best way to learn all the benefits, but here are some rapid-fire ones. Easily paying collaborators with splits, generating free Spotify canvases, making mini videos to use on your socials, keeping people from stealing your music with DistroLock, using Hyperfollow to get pre-saves on your songs, sharing large files with playlist curators and producers with Instant Share, mastering your music with Mixia, and easily withdrawing your earnings with the DistroKid app. I could go all day here, but the easiest thing to do is to go to distrokid.com/VIP/OneHitThunder to learn all the benefits. That's distrokid.com/VIP/OneHitThunder as soon as you're ready to take that big step of putting your music into the world.
This summer at Wolf Trap, Lizzo, Josh Groban, Erykah Badu, John Batiste, Tedeschi Trucks Band, James Taylor, and many more. Tickets on sale now at wolftrap.org.
Around and no one spared. All hands look out below.
Also within this mix somewhere, not that it's a super important, but there's a quip, where Belvedere says to Wesley that because Wesley's like, it's too quiet, I can't stand that. And he makes some joke about how he wouldn't like silence because he's just basically a noisy little kid.
Well, another early riser.
Couldn't sleep.
What's the matter?
Too quiet.
Yes, I know how that disturbs you.
Yeah, my kid listen.
Which I just think everything is just constantly adding to Wesley's just some precocious Dennis the Menace character or whatever, which I think goes back to that joke at the top of it. Wesley, it must have been a difficult birth because he's just a little pain in the ass. Okay.
You don't think it has anything to do with the size of his head? We've heard lots of theories on that joke from episode 1 as to what it could mean.
I mean, it's going to haunt us till the end of the series. Maybe they're going to explain it by the time that it's over because why? Where did it come from?
Yeah, I don't know. I want that joke to be explained at some point. I want to bring Sinbad the Seal back into the fold one way or another.
He'll have a scroll around his neck, and when he takes the scroll off, it's going to explain what that means.
There's a lot of lost, open-ended questions that if they are not answered, we're going to be pissed when this all comes to an end. But luckily, we have many seasons ahead of us. And Belvedere, for someone who's always instilling wisdom and morality into the people around him. Once everyone does accept the fact that, man, a tornado's on the way, Belvedere says that they're supposed to open the windows, to which I'm like, where did you get this information? In fact, I went and researched this. The National Weather Service website I was on, they said it's a myth that you should do this. It allows damaging winds to enter the structure. Now, I could see staying away from the windows in case they break and not getting cut by it or hit by something flying through the window. But Belvedere goes as far as to start breaking the windows with a lamp.
I can't get this open, Mr. Belvedere. It's stuck.
So's mine.
So what are we going to do?
Stand back, Wesley.
Boy, my turn. Wesley!
I'll be in the kitchen.
Maybe they're just picking and choosing what we're supposed to suspend our disbelief towards or whatever. But my thought was it was some sort of atmospheric pressure situation, but you wouldn't need to open every single window. You would just have to have one hole, kind of like how if you have like a can of juice and you got to pop another hole towards the top for it to flow out correctly. I don't think you need to open every window in the house to make sure that it doesn't explode or implode or whatever would happen with the atmospheric pressure of a tornado blasting through. But also, if your house gets hit directly with a tornado, it's not going to matter if those windows are open or not, because it's going down for sure.
I just can't believe, with all of the intelligence and wisdom of Belvedere, that he would start smashing the windows. It doesn't make sense to the character. This was such a poor writing choice for Belvedere at this point. It would make more sense for Kevin to do that, or George, or anyone else. Belvedere, this is a chance for Belvedere to be like, what are you doing?
It's also so unnecessary. It's so unnecessary. There's the windows are stuck, so they got to break them. What are we doing?
It's just insane. So they all go to the basement, and we finally get to see the Owens basement. Jim, I've been wondering for 7+8 episodes now, what does the basement look like? We finally get to see the basement.
Right, and they're not hanging out down there ever? That's not a set that they're going to use for them to have hanging out with pals, or maybe we'll see it here in the future or whatever. But it's not like they're just in the basement with some boxes, and it's not like a Pittsburgh basement, right?
No.
It's a Pittsburgh basement that's finished and has a pool table and a tiki bar.
Dude.
And presumably carpet on the ground.
Dude. Pool table, tiki bar, couch. Why are they never hanging out down here? This is a pretty cool bar in the basement. I don't get it.
Totally.
I don't get it. Belvedere tells them to stand in the southeast corner of the room, but Belvedere does not. He just sits on the couch and reads. I'm starting to wonder, man, at this point, breaking the windows, not standing. I don't even think standing in the corner is a thing either, but I'm starting to think is Belvedere an idiot?
I don't know. So were the writers just taking liberties with the tornado safety tips?
It seems very irresponsible of the writers of Mr. Belvedere to put this kind of stuff into a show that a lot of people who may be at some point in their life experiencing a tornado might remember. Keep in mind, there's only 3 channels at this. Most people only have 3 channels at this time and may have to rely on something they learn. It just feels like such irresponsible writing.
You're right, dude. This is the time frame that I'm sure cable existed. Maybe it existed in Pittsburgh because Pittsburgh is a big place, but it certainly didn't exist in Hollidaysburg. It was just coming in. But I guess you could have had a big ass satellite outside your house. And if you had that going on, then you would get a lot more channels. But that was few and far between in my experience.
Right. One of my favorite little, I don't know what you would call it, little piece on the set in this episode was that George apparently has a clock where every number is 5.
Because it's 5 o'clock somewhere, dude.
Well, it says bar opens at 5 and it's all 5s. I thought that's kind of cool. I got to say, the family is pretty bummed about being confined to the basement for it being such a cool basement.
Yeah, exactly.
We learn at this part that Belvedere was in London during the Blitz.
Well, actually, I have something of an advantage over the rest of you. I've been confined like this before.
Leavenworth?
No, London during the Blitz.
You mean you were there when they were dropping all those bombs?
Actually, I had quite a few close calls. But somehow I came through it unscathed.
Well, night's young.
We've been studying the Blitz in history.
Well, if you're really interested, nothing compares with the on-the-spot reports of Edward R. Murrow. Now, there was a real journalist.
You rewrite him, too?
No, I was busy helping Churchill.
More just backstory on Belvedere that is just said in passing that could be its own show, Young Belvedere.
Yeah, dude, it's like Young Indiana Jones, but it's Young Belvedere. And instead
Or
of
Young
like
Sheldon.
cool ass treasure adventures, it's just like the people that he served along the way.
Yeah. George wants to play Belvedere at pool. And this is another part of this episode where I'm like, he wants to play him to 100 in pool. I'm like, is this how you play pool?
No, I think it was just because they knew that they were in the basement for a stretch because they have to ride this tornado out. They were just going to play to 100 points. I mean, I don't know I guess that's what was happening.
I guess. Heather has a short conversation with Kevin where she's dreading her death and says,
If we go, I'm going to go innocent. I mean, it would be like Brooke Shields died in the first part of the Blue Lagoon and missed that good part.
Come on.
I was like, what? And then Patricia's like, whoa, this show is real sexual. I didn't think that Belvedere was so sexual. And I was like, I know. We've been talking about it for weeks now.
They went so blue. In fact, they went so blue that they went to the Blue Lagoon because she said it would be like if Brooke Shields died in the first part of the Blue Lagoon and missed I'm quoting Heather here, the good part. As I remember, Jim, I've never seen this movie, but I listen to a lot of movie podcasts and I hear it referenced. This movie is real controversial because wasn't Brooke Shields really young in it?
Yeah, I think she was technically underage, and it's like there's like teen sex in it. Not like pornographic on film sex, but it is definitely like I've never seen this movie either, you and I, but I think that there might be like nudity and stuff in it, and she's definitely young, probably like 17 or something. So it's one of those questionable things in history that was probably cool at the time, but it's certainly like, what the fuck now?
I read the Wikipedia about this movie, and I guess it's about it's like a boy and a girl who grow up like somewhat wild or feral or something. And in this like Blue Lagoon place, I guess, and they grow up and like get into adolescence and they don't understand like what's happening with their bodies. And they, this sounds gross. I swear, go look at the Wikipedia.
No, I believe you completely. I thought, look, thanks for tuning into the segment of us coming up with what we think the plot of a movie we've never watched is. I thought it had something to do with the like, deserted island thing or whatever. And that's like how they were there. But look, maybe it's because that's where they grew up, whatever. But what if they're like, hey, it sounds like the director was like, how do I get a naked Brooke Shields into the zeitgeist or something? I don't know.
I'm going to tell you a couple things, Jim. I think it's like the plot takes place for years and they don't really understand what's going on or like what sex is, but they have sex in the movie. Like that's what she means by the good part, I think. And
that's what I took from it too. Yeah.
And I also think, and I could be wrong about this, listeners, you can correct me. I think Brooke Shields was like really young. I think the Brooke Shields was like, I actually am going to Wikipedia it here.
Their wooden ship burns at sea, and two children are left to survive alone, lost forever in a tropical paradise. But on one side of this island, they discover a dangerous mystery, dark, sinister. On the other side, they discover desire. Columbia Pictures presents Brooke Shields and introducing Christopher Atkins in The Blue Lagoon, a sensuous story of natural love. Rated R.
Check your newspaper for local listings.
How old was Brooke Shields? She was 14.
Whoa, what the fuck?
Pretty sketchy.
Yeah, totally. But wow, all right. So much so they're like, hey, we got to get this into Belvedere in 1985.
Yeah. Somehow we have to make a reference about this I think that maybe, Jim, 1980, society just accepted it as a thing. And by 1985, they still weren't ready to look back on this with a critical eye and be like, whoa, that's messed up. I think that it was still like acceptable or something.
Yeah, clearly. I don't know. Well, all right. Look, let's not, like, Mr. Belvedere is never not going to leave a topical reference on the table. It's always going to be, It's always going to be in.
Speaking of on the table and in, George makes a big comeback in this game to 100 of pool against Belvedere.
Yep.
Things are very contentious between George and Belvedere in this pool game. Once again, we got ourselves, we'll throw back to the beginning of the episode. We got ourselves a little bit of a pissing match here.
Who's going to pass the piss test? That's the question.
Yeah, exactly. And you could have guessed this was going to happen. It's the big shot. Is Belvedere going to make the shot? But it feels like the tornado's coming. The second Belvedere is about to shoot his last shot, and we never get the shot that would determine the winner. They go up to check out the house because the tornado's passed. The house is all fucked up.
Yeah, did you notice, though, that there's still breakfast on the kitchen table? Like, I started to notice that when they came out of the basement, that there was still like eggs and stuff on the table, clearly as some kind of like setup thing. But I don't recall them having to rush to the basement in such a manner that they couldn't finish or take their breakfast. But yet I guess they had to decorate that set somehow.
Yeah. And I can't help but think that a main reason why the house is all fucked up is because Belvedere said we should open the windows. Yeah. Like, why else would it be fucked up in there?
I don't know. Especially if the roof is still on the house, which it clearly is.
Yeah.
So how there's so much debris inside the living room absolutely has to be because all of the windows in the entire house, and maybe even the door, are just wide ass open to have it all come inside.
Yeah. But through this somewhat, I wouldn't call it a tragedy, this messy house that Belvedere is obviously going to be the one to clean up, George accepts that Belvedere is part of the family, but he lays down the line that his job is his job.
Look, I remember when this was my home, and they were my family, and this was my life. And then one day you showed up and started sticking your nose in all of it. And you know something? I've come to accept it. You have? Sure. But when it comes to my job, that's where I draw the line. I mean, that's the one thing I do without you. Alone.
I understand.
I may not be Edward R. Murrow, and what I put down on paper doesn't always come out grammatical. But it comes from my gut, and it's mine.
Very well put, sir.
Oh, yeah?
I mean that.
I think he got off pretty easy for doing what he did and having it be whatever, especially considering we don't know if George is going to be expected to have this, more eloquent writing style moving forward, because it came out of nowhere. And then it's going to, is he going to be like, sorry guys, sorry loyal readers, that was just a guest appearance from my British butler that showed up on my door.
Yeah. Belvedere's setting the bar too high.
Totally. Hey, did you notice? I got to say in this that when they came out of the basement, they said there was like a joke that I thought Belvedere was dissing Pittsburgh. I had to rewind it and go back and be like, what the? Because he said something. He was like, is it? I thought he said, but it's still Pittsburgh. Like they said, like, the house is destroyed, but it's still here. And then I thought he said, but it's still Pittsburgh. Like, oh, it's Pittsburgh is shitty or what. I was like, what the fuck? And then I went back and he actually said, is here still Pittsburgh?
I can't believe it. All that wind and noise, the house is still here.
But is here still Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I'm gonna check outside for munchkins.
Wesley, you stay right here.
Which I think is some sort of long, like, squint, if you can, reference to as if it's like they were transported elsewhere in this tornado that's not Pittsburgh, and he's not dissing Pittsburgh.
Right. Like the Wizard of Oz. That's what happens in the Wizard of Oz.
Right.
That's
exactly
a throwback to Wesley's Wizard of Oz reference. I got to say, though, Jim, back to George putting his foot down with Belvedere, Belvedere telling him, like, point taken, you're right. I got to say that at that moment, you can tell George is proud. Proud that Belvedere said that. He's proud. He earned Belvedere's respect. And that might be all that George wants in this world.
Yeah. I mean, especially considering that for 8 straight episodes, he's just been getting chopped down by it every single time. So he finally grabbed that brass ring.
Yeah. Wesley wants the two of them to shake hands. He wants to see both of the father figures in his life shake hands. And you think it's going to happen, but nope. They both have the same thing in mind. They're doing the fake out handshake, Jim. Did you see it coming?
Yeah. You know that those guys got to keep it spicy, or else how are we gonna get to 117 episodes?
Yeah, right. We got to keep a little contention in here. We can't resolve the Belvedere and George cannot be buddy on like the 9th episode of Mr. Belvedere.
It's will they, won't they the entire time, I'm sure.
Absolutely. During Belvedere's end of the show writing, we find out that he apparently experienced a tsunami in Jakarta. Like, just once again, added to the list between him strapping himself to harpoons on a whaling vessel, to being in London during the Blitz, to experiencing a tsunami in Jakarta. The backstory of Belvedere is insane. Insane.
Also, I guess in the midst of him trying to justify the writing to George, he did say that he gave Churchill the edit to say that they'd meet them on the beaches, which is like one of the most famous lines of World War II. Because he said that Churchill originally wanted to say, we'll meet them on the seashore. And said he's like, seashore sounds too nice, which is, I would agree with that. Like if you said we'll meet them on the seashore, it kind of sounds like you're gonna go get some saltwater taffy or something. But yeah, but he says we'll meet them on the beaches, which again is like an incredibly famous quote from World War II that somehow is unaccredited to Belvedere.
Wow. Okay, that got past me. I'm glad you caught that. I was paying too much attention to the fact that Belvedere and George are apparently now going to go have a pissing contest on the skee ball machines. But we learn Belvedere has his own skee ball.
He does. He's the Brighton Bomber, which I was going to add to you, dude. I've been to Brighton. It's a beach in the UK. It's like going to Asbury Park. So it's not like Myrtle Beach or Ocean City or something like that. It'd be like if you went to Asbury Park, and then their thing that's there is this big, long pier that you pay like £1 coin to go walk out on. And then it's just filled with skee ball machines and arcade games. And there's like some rides and stuff like that. And so that's what Belvedere is referring to when they say that he's the Brighton Bomber, because that's where one would probably go in England to play skee ball.
Wow. So the writers of the show know this like deep references for where Belvedere is from, but they put so little effort into knowing about the Pittsburgh area.
I mean, dude, we've talked about it at the beginning of the episode. There's nothing more hand in glove than Beaver Falls' own Joe Namath that somehow escapes all of it. They're like, you could say Joe Namath, you can't say Beaver Falls. You can't say he's from there. He's been trying to escape Beaver Falls his entire life.
Jim, I dove into the comments on the YouTube upload a little bit. My favorite comment, just because I agreed with it, this isn't something like outlandish or funny, but Live for Fantasy said, Mr. Belvedere gave some bad advice here. Opening windows during a tornado actually leads to more damage.
Yep. Well,
I couldn't agree more. It's illustrated in this episode.
Absolutely. Maybe you should have said something like, well, maybe I guess I was wrong about something or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, right. I mean, that would have been an important lesson to take away from this episode. I don't know what the lesson we take away from this episode is. Maybe it's don't mess with someone else's work, even if it's imperfect. It's them.
Yeah, I don't know. Because, I mean, it sure as hell isn't about tornadoes. Because honestly, not to get into it deep, tornadoes are no joke. Like, It seems like a thing that you're never, that seems obvious or whatever. But, Trisha has some family that actually got their house destroyed by a tornado in Missouri. And it was like a tragic situation that we don't have to bring everybody down by getting deep into. But it was like, I mean, it's bad news. So I think that just the way that they kind of were treating it, especially for it being like George is like, come on already, let's get this over with kind of a thing. Like you would just hope that it passed and nothing happened, but then they like get hit or something in their, I mean, they're lucky that the roof didn't come off that house. And the worst that they have is just some broken ass glass and stuff in their living room.
Yeah. And they have Belvedere there to clean it all up. Yep, which he should, because it's all his fault. It is his fault that the house is all messed up. So he should in turn clean it up. But Jim, I think the important question here is, how many Scotch eggs are you thinking for this episode?
So I was thinking about this a little bit myself, because it's definitely not a dozen Scotch eggs.
No.
I'm going to think it's somewhere in the zone of maybe, this is probably high, but he's got to get some eggs. 7 eggs.
Okay.
It did have a couple of jokes that I definitely cracked up out loud with, like when they first realized that the tornado was coming, based off of like whatever the news report was, before they had to get to the basement, like they kind of before the windows were broken and all that stuff. George said something said to Belvedere, care to step outside? I thought that was hilarious. And then also whenever George said to Belvedere, you don't see me doing your job, and he said never. That also got me to laugh out loud too. So just on those jokes alone, it's got to be at least 5 Scotch eggs. Plus the fact that I went back. At first, I was ready to give it less Scotch eggs because I thought he dissed Pittsburgh, and then when I realized that he didn't diss Pittsburgh, then it's good. I'm going to add an extra one to the pile. So I don't know. I feel sad. It's a solid 7, but I could be convinced otherwise.
I'm not going to try to convince you otherwise. In fact, I'm going to agree with you, Jim. I think I'm going to give this one 7 Scotch eggs as well, because we got some action this episode. We got some excitement this episode. Dumb choice, but I got to say, I loved seeing Belvedere break some windows. I just like, why are they doing this? But I like the action. And also I liked Belvedere giving George a little bit of respect. Now, everyone knows I'm a little bit more team Belvedere in the George versus Belvedere pissing match over this, but I thought that George had a good point. If he'd asked Belvedere to do that, that'd be one thing. I'm a guy who doesn't like to be told or accept unsolicited advice or anything like that. If someone took something I did, if you took this episode of Belvedere Bros this week, Jim, and re-edited it and released it, I'd be like, what the hell? Like, I didn't ask you to do that. I'm the editor of this episode. I see George's point, and I liked when Belvedere gave him the respect he deserved in that facet, accepted where he went wrong. So between the action, the action and the respect, I give it 7 Scotch eggs.
Nice. Yeah, I would say you'd be so pissed if I did that. Even if I had the best of intentions to do it, you would be so upset.
Who wouldn't be?
Sure, of course, I know. Don't worry, it's not happening, man. I'm not going to do it to you.
Okay. Well, Jim, it's been another great episode of Belvedere Bros, and hopefully, assuming that people demand it, we'll be back next week with another episode of Belvedere Bros.
Boy, I sure hope so.
I had my first American tornado today. It didn't really compare to the tsunami that hit us in Jakarta, but it was a nice break nonetheless. Fortunately, there was little damage done. The twister left Beaver Falls with its delightful provincialism still intact.
Hey, hurry up, Belvedere.
Speaking of provincialism, George is waiting. He's challenged me to a game of skee-ball at the local arcade. Little does he know that I was once known as the Brighton Bomber. I have my own ball. Coming, George.
This has been Belvedere Bros. Belvedere Bros is hosted by me, Chris Fafalius, and Jim Legrando, 2 guys who share a mutual respect for all things Mr. Belvedere. Underneath me, you're hearing the end credits instrumental version of According to Our New Arrival, the theme song of Mr. Belvedere, written by Gary Portnoy and Judy Hart Angelo. If you love Belvedere Bros, I have sad news. We're in danger of being taken off the air. It's all up to listeners like you to go to Apple Podcasts and leave a 5-star review on the One Hit Thunder feed and let us know how much you love Belvedere Bros and would hate to see it go. We're going to be paying close attention, and if we don't get at least 30 more 5-star reviews, Belvedere Bros will be taken away from us. We don't want that, so please go to Apple Podcasts, search for One Hit Thunder, scroll down, and leave us 5 stars and a written review about how much you love Belvedere Bros. If not, that will be the end of Belvedere Bros. Tune in next week for more Belvedere Bros. If we get enough 5-star reviews, that is. Man, I really hope people leave reviews. I wouldn't want Belvedere Bros to go away.